Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being at Agentic Analytics Summit today. We are halfway through, and now instead of a talk, we are doing a panel discussion. So we have 3 guests today, Satish, Paul, and Ken. And I believe Ken is just about to join us on the stage here.
Hey guys, sorry, I don't know how to use.
All good, all good. So we have about 30 minutes for our conversation. We'll try to cover everything AI and analytics related. We'll start with a quick round of introduction, and then we'll jump into the questions and the discussions. Hi everyone, my name is Artyom. I'm co-founder and CEO at Cube. I'm coming from software data engineering background. I started Cube as an open source project back in late 2018 and then built a company around it. I'm going to moderate today's discussion. And Satish, can you please go next?
Sure. Hello, my name is Satish Jayanthi, co-founder, CTO of Coalesce. We are in the data transformation space, and that's, we are a pandemic company. We started about 5 years ago. And my background has been technology and especially in the data area for 20 years.
Thank you, Satish. Paul, can you please go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Paul Dudley. I'm co-founder and CEO of Streamkap. We're a streaming ETL and stream processing platform. And I've been in data and analytics for almost 20 years. And yeah, excited to be joined.
Awesome, thank you. Ken?
Hi everyone, excited to be here. Ken Wong, Senior Director of Product Management here at Databricks, responsible for our analytics portfolio. Joined Databricks a few years ago via an acquisition as a founder of a small analytics startup. And then before that, spent a bunch of years in analytics, working at Tableau and Business Objects and other places as well. So excited about today's discussion.
Awesome. All right, thank you everyone for joining. And let's start with the basics. We are at Agentic Analytics Summit, but what is Agentic Analytics? Ken, I know you're working on the AI BI product at Databricks, and so I would love to get your perspective on the space. Some people call it Agentic Analytics, some people call it AI BI. How you would define that, and how is it different from all this text to SQL or chat with your data solutions that we see on the market right now?
Right. So the question is, what does agentic analytic really mean, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I guess, well, first of all, I think if you're a startup, I think calling yourself agentic analytics means you have an easier time fundraising than if you were just a regular analytics startup. But okay, that aside, I mean, at a high level, I think in my mind, it means that you're not only designing analytics tooling and experiences that take advantage of the fact that we have LLMs now, and these LLMs can reason through novel problems. You're not just designing those experiences, but you're actually trying to build an agentic system that that ultimately can offload and take on some of the analytics works that humans are doing. So yeah, in concrete terms, there probably is like a talk to your data type experience. That's like the new must-have for any tool called agentic analytics. But there's probably also an experience for leveraging LLMs to perform analytical tasks, like, hey, I'm authoring a semantic model, or authoring an asset like a dashboard, or creating an asset like a notebook. And there's probably some type of capabilities to leverage the reasoning ability of LLMs to combine structured analysis and unstructured analysis. Like, all of these are capabilities you would expect in any agentic analytics tool. But in my mind, I think the key is that you're not just creating, an app that where these experiences are possible. That's very easy to do now in the vibe coding world. It's not just creating these experiences, but like you're actually doing the hard AI engineering work of creating these agentic systems that are actually good at this task. And that's the crux of what defines a solution that is, truly an agentic analytics solution versus one that is, claiming by name.
Right. Thank you. Let's maybe talk more broadly about the state of AI, especially as it sort of like applies to data field in comparison maybe to software engineering, because in 2025 we witnessed a lot of progress in software engineering agents. I'm sure everyone at your companies is, all engineers are using tools like Cursor or Claude Code today, and every time I go to a party in San Francisco, the conversation which tool is better, like it always pops up. It's always a different, like last month's Cursor was all hype, now it's Claude Code, then it's kind of Cursor again. But I don't see that is happening in data yet. So like we definitely see the shift in productivity overall in software engineering, but I see different approaches to do it in data, including agentic analytics, AI, BI, some tools maybe for transformation, for other places like a data modeling, but I don't see the widespread adoption and a productivity boost as massive as in software engineering. Satish, that question to you, what do you think needs to happen in data to unlock that level of productivity? And even if that's possible at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I guess there's, traditionally this is the case where we see this new technology really apply to applications space before it actually applies to the data space. The data space is just always kind of lagging for a couple of reasons. I mean, there's a difference between a software engineering project or software engineering and data engineering. There's two things I want to highlight. One, the structure, and I'll explain what that means in a minute here. And then the second one is the data quality and the context. So by structure, what I mean is software engineering, usually start with requirements, which are pretty well defined. You have a series of logical steps that you need to follow, and you have some outcome for everything that you define it already. So for AI systems, the code being precise makes it much easier for it to generate a code, which code just works or doesn't work. Now, when it comes to data, data is more kind of exploratory. Like, you go in with an hypothesis and you test it out, and then you get an answer, but that leads to 5 other questions. And then you continue this exploration without any clear end, like outcome sometimes. That makes it hard for AI to do a complete system. The other aspect is data quality. Now, data quality, we all know, we've been trying to solve this forever. And it's, as the data sets grow bigger and bigger, the problems that you see, like inconsistencies, gaps in the data, semantics, definitions, one column being used differently by different departments, it just makes it very, very hard for the AI system to understand. I think these have been the challenges. So in order to build an effective AI system, I'll go back to what Ken was saying, which is not just building a small application, that a chatbot or anything, but you have to build it holistically as a set of agents that are doing implement all the data processes that serve as the foundation for this. That includes, automatic data quality, maybe data governance, classifying things. There's a lot of things that need to happen. Build a semantic layer, maybe. Once you have all of that in place, and then you have this orchestration of several agents, then we're getting closer. I'm still not sure we go 100% of that, but I think that's the path we need to take.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Yeah, I definitely see, like how data and data workflow is different from software engineering and how we need to uniquely adapt to unlock the productivity here. Speaking maybe of just a current state of AI more broadly, I hear not a lot of optimism recently about the state of sort of like AI progress, and like some can say that agents are overhyped. There has been an interview or podcast appearance of Andrei Karpathy a few weeks ago where he was essentially saying that like the state of agents is pretty much overhyped today, and we are not there yet from a capabilities perspective. Well, that is your question to you. What is your take on recent AI progress? Do you feel that the industry is slowing down in innovation, or are we still keeping the pace?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because on the one hand, like we have seen, pretty consistent growth in kind of on the benchmark front, let's say, of like model progress as the new releases have come out. But I listened to that podcast with Karpathy, and I think he had his framework. One of the things that he articulated was that like each 9 of reliability essentially takes the same amount of time, right? And so maybe we're at 90% right now, but that next 9 is going to take the same amount of time, and so on, right? And it does sort of feel to me like that's like the domain we're kind of getting into, where things are very good. Well, certainly in software coding, things are quite effective, but maybe we're in that kind of slowdown of that next 9 is just going to take equally long. I don't know where we started measuring that, by the way, from the beginning of LLMs or from ChatGPT or what have you. But it certainly would. I mean, his claim was that we're 10 years out from sort of AGI. He also has a pretty expansive view of AGI, like that it means it can do literally anything a human can do. Whereas I think other folks have a more constrained, like knowledge work focused, non-physical world articulation of that. And I think if we look at it like a domain specific way, like again, clearly like coding is probably the area where it's most advanced, and then other maybe like what do you call it, text generation, things like that, is quite developed, but maybe not quite as good as code, and then kind of maybe data is down somewhere below that for the reasons as Satish mentioned. So yeah, it's hard to say whether we're maybe we get another the next generation of models kind of take us to the next level, and I think we're seeing kind of the overall growth is continuing to grow up a lot, and we're stacking S curves of different techniques that get us to the next level. So I'm not an AI researcher, so it's hard to know what's going to come with the next model. But I think there's a good argument, I guess, for maybe we're slowing down, and but also it's hard to know what's going to come with the next models.
Okay, so maybe let's talk about data. Kind of switching gears from like all AI focus to data and what's happening in the data landscape recently. And I think the talk of the town is data consolidation. I remember back then, and maybe like 22, when we were raising our last round of fundraising, we were talking to a lot of investors, and everyone was talking the data consolidation is going to happen. Now I think it's actually happening. Every month I hear news about one company acquiring another in a data space. Obviously, this month in October, we got news about dbt in Fivetran, which was kind of probably the biggest acquisition in a modern data stack as we saw it kind of in the recent year. So I would like, Ken, maybe to take your perspective on the data consolidation. You've been at Databricks, which is kind of one of the biggest center of gravity that, like naturally is going to pull a lot of companies around itself. So like, how do you think about data consolidation? And, like, what is the future for data stack? Is it going to be a postmodern data stack? Like, and where we go from here?
Well, that's the first time I heard about that. Yeah, postmodern data stack. I think you can coin that one, Artyom. Yeah, I mean, I think the vendor, yeah, you're right. I'm a Databricks, so like my worldview is pretty biased. I would say pretty skewed. So I take what I say with a grain of salt. But with that in mind, like I think the vendor consolidation that we're seeing and have been seeing, I would say, is sort of a trailing indicator of what is already happening, which is like consolidation of platforms and consolidation of data in organizations, right? At Databricks, we have this view that the primary, barrier to most organizations being able to leverage their data and AI is complexity. And then we also have this view that the biggest source of that complexity is the fragmentation of systems. And when you look at the world, with that lens in mind, I think when you look at the world, I think there's really like two questions you have to ask. Like, is that fragmentation, a fundamental constraint that you just cannot overcome because you have systems in the cloud and they have legacy systems and on-premise, and these legacy systems on-premise just cannot move, and they all move at different paces. Is that part of your constraint? I like sort of question one. And then question two is like, is there a singular platform capable of delivering all the needs that you have, as diverse as they are? And I think for more and more organizations, I would say at this point, like most organizations, the answer to the first question of like, can I bring all my data together technically? Is my system evolved to a place where that is even possible and conceivable? The answer is now yes for most organizations. They're either have the majority of their data in cloud connected systems, or are well on their way. Now there are always exceptions, and certainly I suffer some sampling bias because I'm at Databricks. But I think from my interactions with customers, the answer to that first question is yes. You can consolidate all of this in theory, if a system exists that can actually deliver on all your different needs. Then the second question is like, well, is there a system out there that actually can do all of this? And the Databricks answer is obviously yes, it's Databricks. But I think that's where you see a lot of this consolidation is like, I think customers are trying to look for that one system, and all the different vendors are trying to build that system. Of course, I think on the flip side, I think that most organizations also want to make sure they're not locked in any system, so that they're not, and in particular any vendor, which is why I think the idea of everything being based on open formats and open stack become really, really important. But I believe we are trending towards consolidation.
Thank you, Ken. I think that's definitely like a good perspective, and I think data consolidation is happening, and we know that everything is cycle as well. So we'll probably should see the decoupling in the next years again. It's like not a postmodern data stack, postmodern. Like we'll figure it out the name, but it always comes in a cycle. So it should be some decoupling after the consolidation. Satish, maybe coming back to AI and how it's changing the different aspects of the data. So I will start with you. So I know you're on the front line of the transformations, ETLs, workflows. How can you share some examples how AI is changing the data transformation workflows, day-to-day work of the practitioners building transformation jobs today, and where do you see the most productivity boost today? And where do you think it's going to happen next year?
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting period. At the same time, there's some uncertainty, and I think we covered that. For example, in our product or in most products, now there is this way of defining transformation rules with natural language. I mean, you can say a rule, and you essentially have that generated, whatever that output is, whether it's SQL or something else. So that's possible, but that's just not the most exciting. There's a lot more exciting stuff that's happening, which is, I think we talked about implementing these data processes like governance, quality. So there's a lot of AI kind of in those areas. For example, in the data quality area, we have seen anomaly detection. You can use AI ML there to do these, to profile the data, to understand the gaps, or to even define or recommend what data quality tests that you need to implement. And in the data governance area, what we are seeing, things like auto classifying data, tags. Like by using tags automatically, whenever it discovers some new data set, it can recommend the tags. All of this is definitely a productivity boost compared to where we were in the past. Now, where all of this is going and what's exciting for me is I want to see a world where a business user or anybody who can specify their intent from a business standpoint, like what a business question, and then the agents, all the agents that are working together will go ahead and implement the right things, the right pieces to build a solution for that. Just like how we do with people. We have data engineers, stewards, governance people, all of this. But the agents are autonomously doing this on the fly, keeping the human in the loop still, which is super critical, and also showing how they have arrived at a particular conclusion. So that is what is exciting for me. The world where anybody could ask a business question, everything gets built on the fly, keeping that transparency, keeping that human in the loop, avoiding this black box feeling. If we can do that, that's really, really exciting.
Awesome, thank you. And I have one last question. Paul, that would be one to you. I know Streamkap is very close to streaming world. Obviously, yeah. You have a stream in the name to get a hint here. And I have been following streaming closely. Maybe 3-4 years ago, I remember we had a lot of exciting conversation about SQL over stream technologies. I think some of them are still maturing, so I don't see the widespread adoption of these technologies. While they are very exciting and fundamental underlying technologies are pretty exciting, I think will take some time for them to mature to a point of the widespread adoption. I saw many Kafka competitors, like some written in Rust, some written in C++. Red Panda seems doing well, so it's been a fun kind of space to watch. What is your take? What is the hottest thing in streaming? Right, what are people talking about? I know and I don't know if you're at a Confluent conference this week. If you are, tell us the people talking on the show floor. What is the next big thing in streaming?
I mean, I think AI is the big discussion point. That was a major point of the keynote this morning. I agree. Sort of 21, 22, there was a lot of, or 21 to be particular, there was a lot of new Kafka alternatives. I think other than Red Panda, I don't think any of Confluent bought WarpStream, which is, goes back to consolidation and some of the, new approaches kind of getting some adoption, which WarpStream is essentially Kafka, but with object storage rather than storing in topics directly. So it's a cheaper way to run Kafka, and also has some nice kind of parallels into the Iceberg and open storage format kind of world where you can stream and just store your data, your streaming data in open storage formats like Iceberg and Delta, which was another actual topic of the Confluent keynote this morning. But generally, I think we're seeing, when we entered the space, part of the reason that we started Streamkap was the common theme we heard was when people wanted to do streaming, they were spending months getting to production pipelines. It had a ton of complexity. People really only did it where they had to. And it was a different team, it's dedicated engineers who know Kafka. I do think that's changing. I think if you look at the data lakes and data warehouses, both Databricks and Snowflake have gotten a lot better at streaming ingestion. And so, they kind of, those pieces fit together better than they used to. We make it super easy to get going with streaming. Kind of our pitch, for a lot of folks is like, we're as easy to use as Fivetran, but it's built on Kafka and Flink, so you get low latency. And I think that is starting to get more traction. I think the thing that will shift that more holistically is as you get into more agentic workflows, because if you think about having an autonomous worker out there in the world, there are a lot of contexts where it's super important for them to have context about what's happening. So for example, my favorite toy example is like Streamkap's own support, right? Like it's trivially easy today to get a chatbot that has the context of your docs for your product, right? And pretty much anybody could do that, and with off-the-shelf stuff. And you can have production grade version of that, but it's pretty easy to do, right? And the next level of like support that would be great from a AI perspective would be to take into account maybe all the history you have with that customer in your whatever support channels you have, which would be super valuable. And that's you can do that today. It has a little bit more complexity around really the security and data privacy components of it, but very achievable. But if you think about, especially for us as a streaming platform, the ideal state of how AI would help us do support would be, we have real-time telemetry from our platform that's feeding into an AI agent that's either interacting with people or even better is actually, proactively fixing systems. And in that context, you just have to have the real-time data. It's not useful to know, what the state of the systems were yesterday if you're trying to fix kind of real-time problems with systems. And I think that's kind of where we start to see more, expansion of demand for streaming, probably as we go into next year.
Awesome, thank you, Paul. That's great. Thank you for sharing. About the state of streaming. And I think on that we can wrap our panel today. Thank you, Satish, Paul, Ken, for sharing your insights around analytics and AI. And thank you for joining us at Agentic Analytics Summit today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.